In a recent video, I showed that I connected Claude to Elementor, which allowed me to build inside of Elementor with AI according to how I like to work. And I got a lot of questions about that. So in this video, I want to show you how you can do that. And let me start off by saying that it is not perfect in any way. And that's because AI makes mistakes. But the huge benefit is that it happens inside of Elementor or inside of WordPress, so you still have all of the editing capabilities that you don't get on AI website builders. And don't get me wrong, I am starting to love AI website builders like Lovable and Bolt and Replit, and I truly believe that we don't need WordPress in the future anymore for every single project. But that's a very interesting topic for another video. And so I think that this is best of both worlds because you get the editing capabilities of a system like WordPress with a page builder and also the speed and intelligence of AI. And before I show you the specifics, I just want to take one moment to talk about how big this actually is. Because it's starting to look like we're going to a future where we're not going to start from blank in every single tool. Because where AI becomes really powerful is if you have one source of truth. A design system stored in some kind of knowledge base, maybe some information on a specific client project. And then all of that stuff comes together and that's your starting point. And so if this workflow that I'm presenting in this video becomes really good, and I think that's just a matter of time and testing and experimenting, then we will never have to start from scratch anymore. And that's an incredibly exciting future. I want to say one thing that I've noticed in the market, and that is that tools like Lovable and Replit don't only allow you now to make a website and a web app in the tool, but they also allow you to save that design system in your project. And then from there, you can also generate a keynote or social media graphic or anything else. And so this is the big idea. This is not just a nice plugin on WordPress. This can change how we as professionals work in the future. So let me give you a little demo of what I achieved so far, and then I will explain how you can install this for yourself. So after I connected Claude to my WordPress website, I asked it to install some plugins, and it did that. So you can give it a full list, it will do it for you. Then I asked it to generate a custom post type and make dummy posts with relevant data. In this example, some posts about German cars. And it did actually do that, relevant titles, relevant descriptions, and even looked up images of German cars that actually matched the title of the post. It uploaded that to the media library. And so that was already pretty cool to see. But here you can already see two mistakes. First, it failed the first time. So I ended up with 19 posts, even though it said it only created 10. It didn't catch that mistake itself, so I had to ask it like, yo, I see 19 posts, you say there are 10, so there's probably a lot of duplicates. It said, yeah, you're right, let me clean that up. But then it didn't go to the media library and also deleted the duplicate images. After I asked it to do that, it actually did that. So some duplication errors here, not a super big deal. And since I had installed ACF, I hoped that Claude would understand that I wanted to create a custom post type with ACF. It did not do that by default, so that's what I should have said from the beginning. So I asked it to convert the custom post type to the ACF custom post type. It did that even though it forgot the title, but after I updated the title it worked. So with a better prompt that probably wouldn't have happened. And then the fun part, I went to Elementor, and again this was a clean project. I didn't really have a design system yet. I just wanted to see what was possible, and it was interesting. It first actually said that it cannot do anything in Elementor because it doesn't have drag and drop capabilities. But then I said, well, can you not just analyze how Elementor works with JSON and then figure out how to add elements to the page? And then it said, yeah, you're right, I can actually do that. So I kind of had to guide it and motivate it a little bit. It was interesting. I asked it for one section with a blue background, a title and a button. It created something, but I saw that I forgot to install Hello Elementor. That's also what I should have done in my first prompt. So I fixed that. Then I asked it to add a few more widgets and add top and bottom padding. And then I saw that it forgot to turn it into a box container, because when I clicked on box, it actually works. But then I thought, well, I'm going to ask Claude to do that. So I didn't save it. I asked it, hey, make a new section, now make both of them boxed. And it did that. Then I thought, okay, let's do it a little bit more complex. create a section with 4 columns and use images from the media library from those cars. And it actually did that as well. Very cool. Not the most impressive layout, but hey. Then I was like, okay, let's challenge it a little bit more. I'm just gonna tell it that I want a single post template via the Elementor theme builder, and I want it to add widgets and then link those dynamically to the custom post type, custom fields from those cars. And it actually did the job, even though it forgot to save the template. But after I saved it, then it actually works and I could view these new pages in that single post template. Again, super simple design, but I didn't click on anything. So I was like, okay, let's now test the design capabilities a little bit. So I went to Dribbble, I took a screenshot from a semi-complex layout and I asked it, can you make this section on a new page? It actually did it, but it made some mistakes. It hard-coded the white color inside of the text editor widget instead of using the actual text color feature. And it was also a local color. So I said, hey, that's not how we work here, okay? If you use a color, I want to make sure that you're always adding that color to the global colors and then linking it in each dynamic widget. So now you are gonna go through a whole website and check all of the widgets and make sure that they're all linked to the global colors. It did not properly do the job, and that had something to do with revisions because I was on a newer revision than what Claude was working on. So then it deleted my revision and made sure that it actually worked. And as you can see right here, all of the widgets are now linked to the global colors. So quite interesting, right? So I went through all of these lessons and I was like, wait, this is actually incredibly valuable information for the next project. And I know that Claude Cowork, it works with skills. I mean, you can create skills, which are kind of like instruction files for the next time you want to do something. So I said, hey, why don't we create a skill file together and then combine all of the things that we learned in this session. So Claude spin up the skill creator. So that's a feature that allows you to create an instruction file, and it generated this whole skill file with all of the things that we've learned so far. For example, always use the plugins instead of adding custom PHP. Some defaults when you're adding containers, and this is not exactly according to my system, but I can easily change that from here. Always use global colors. It also added instructions for itself, so it understands how to work with Elementor. What setting to use if you have overlapping sections. Here you can see negative bottom margin minus 140, use z-index. So an instruction file like this turns AI slop code and messy Elementor settings into a structured output. And behind the scenes, I've actually already taken this a step further and I've been building my own Elementor v4 framework. And I've been trying to train Claude to work with my framework, and I'm getting pretty decent results. Those are the actual examples I showed you in the beginning, but I'm still working on that. And as we all know, Elementor v4 is not ready yet, so I can't and I don't really want to share that yet. But I hope that you can also see the power in this workflow. If you have your whole system set up, this can save you so much time. Okay, so now, if you also want to do this, let's walk through the setup a little bit. First, you have to have a WordPress install. Please don't do this on a live website because it is actually quite dangerous because this MCP server can basically do everything inside of WordPress. So do a few tests before you use this for client work. Then once you have WordPress, you have to go to Novamira.ai. You have to download the plugin from here. It's not available from the WordPress repo. So once you click over here, you get a zip. You go to your plugins and you just upload the plugin from here. Then you get this item over here. You click on Novamiro and then you create a new application password. Once you click that, you have a few options over here to connect it to any kind of code editor. I personally like to use Claude Desktop because many of these other options require you to use the terminal. And I already love Claude Desktop. I think that setup is a little bit easier. So you have to copy this then. Make sure to first generate that password. Then you have to go into Claude, go to Settings, then Developer, and then edit the config. And then you have to open this JSON file into a code editor. So you can use Cursor for that. You don't have to have a subscription. You could just use the free version or any kind of code editor. And then you have to add this code to your MCP server. And this is the only part that's a little bit tricky because you have to make sure that you do this correctly. So if this is the point where you get nervous, like me, then just open ChatGPT and say like, hey, I have this piece of code. I just need to add this MCP server in there. Can you help me? And even if you have ChatGPT Plus, you can connect it to Cursor and it can actually write it for you. So you don't have to do anything. Then make sure to save that file, then restart your Claude desktop, then go to WordPress and you have to enable the abilities because that allows you to then do stuff in WordPress. And then you can just go to Cowork and ask like, hey, are you connected to this WordPress MCP server? And I personally tested it by just making a new blog post and then asking it like, hey, what kind of blog post do you see on this website? And if it then shows this new blog post, then I know it works because it can read this website. You just have to understand that you can connect Claude to different kind of MCP servers. You can see right here that I've also connected it to my accounting software so I can do some basic accounting stuff with Claude, which has also been super helpful, by the way. So that's why you have to add that code in there to make sure that these two systems can talk to each other. So if you have multiple websites, you have to add multiple MCP servers to that config file. That's how it works. So yeah, a little bit of a technical setup, a lot harder than using something like NG for Elementor, but this approach is also a lot more powerful because you can create a Claude skill which has your workflow, right? But I think if you have an agency and you want to save time, then this is definitely something that I would experiment with. It of course will eat up AI credits, but if you start a new session, you can of course also use the lighter model of Claude to use less tokens and also turn this one off. I have used Sonnet 4.6 for most of these tasks. By the way, this Novamira plugin is made by the creators of dynamic.uu. I never made a video about them, but they're actually pretty cool company. They are from Italy. And they have basically made a very advanced dynamic plugin that adds on top of Elementor. And they now also have stuff for bricks, as you can see, very cool. From what I understand, it's even more hardcore than CrocoBlock, even though CrocoBlock is already so hardcore. There is some overlap, but they definitely have some more crazy stuff in here. So huge shout out to the creators of Dynamic. Ooh. So what's my conclusion? I think it's kind of crazy, right? It's super powerful, but also dangerous at the same time. And you do have to babysit it, especially in the first few sessions, because it doesn't know how to work with WordPress and Elementor. And of course, it also doesn't know how you like to work inside of the system. So it will take time to perfect this workflow, but I truly believe that for WordPress projects, this will be the most efficient workflow in the future, but it requires you to understand what you're doing. And I think that's true for working with any type of AI. Okay, I hope you found this interesting. Let's discuss in the comments as always, and then I hope to see you in one of my next videos.